For what purposes, gentleman from California, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules to pass H-Res 1130, expressing the support for the sovereign decision of Finland and Sweden to apply to join the North American Treaty Organization, otherwise known as NATO, as well as calling on all members of NATO to ratify the protocols of accession swiftly as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 1130, resolution expressing support for the sovereign decision of Finland and Sweden to apply to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, as well as calling on all members of NATO to ratify the protocols of accession swiftly.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from California, Mr. Costa, and the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Turner, each will control 20 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Costa.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and extraneous material on House Resolution 1130 as amended.
Without objection.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman from California, Mr. Costa, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of Chairman Keating's resolution expressing support for the sovereign decision of Finland and Sweden to apply for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also known as NATO, and calling on all members of NATO to swiftly ratify the protocols of accession. Since Russia's invasion in February of this year on Ukraine, the world has changed. The attack on the Ukraine has been watched as Vladimir Putin's ordered his military to march through Ukraine, brutally attacking civilians and civilian infrastructure. It's exceptionally clear that his senseless aspirations, imperial aspirations, go far beyond the Donbass and even the Ukraine in its entirety. As a matter of fact, he has stated such. In response to our transatlantic allies and partners have had completely to rethink, as is clear, the security postures and tighten our ranks to counter global challenges. In response to the Russian Federation's unthinkable aggression in Ukraine, Sweden and Finland, both long-term security partners of the United States and NATO as a whole, have made a sovereign decision throughout their countries, a decision to apply for NATO membership. This did not come about easily or automatic. Finland and Sweden's accession to the NATO, though, I think represents, and Chairman Keating believes, a strong, unified message against Putin's aggression in the Ukraine. And this would support peace and the values that we all adhere to in the NATO alliance. Finland and their Sweden militaries are already equipped with modern technology and weapons, and some have already delivered, in fact, to Ukraine, are fully inoperable with NATO systems, which makes them a good fit. Additionally, NATO's land border with Russia will now allow significantly more territory, thereby acting as a greater deterrence to Russian threats and aggression. Their accession will also bolster NATO's capabilities in the Baltic Sea region, building on the capabilities already of our Baltic partners, as well as Poland, who have each been steadfast in their commitments to countering Russian aggression and responding to this grave humanitarian crisis that is Russia's responsibility, and Russia's responsibility solely on their part. For this decision, Finnish President Niinisto has rightly said, Vladimir Putin looks in the mirror and he has only himself to blame. Putin's entire warfighting efforts, the bombings, the airstrikes, the ground movements, have been counterproductive. Instead, Putin and the military of the Russian Federation as I have said and many others, have committed war crimes, forced Ukrainians from their homes into filtration camps, deported faraway Russian terrorists, and single-handedly instigated the largest humanitarian crisis in Europe since World War II. And despite his goals of dividing the transatlantic alliance, Putin has instead united us more resolutely than ever before against his attempt to spread hate and violence across the globe and to create more division. Clearly, that's been his goal, and it's been his goal for years. In addition, individuals from around Europe, most notably Central Europe, have welcomed those fleeing violence in Ukraine in their own homes, in Poland and Romania and many other European countries. It's really an incredible humanitarian effort that these Central European countries have engaged in. And it's been heartening. It's been heartening for the entire world to see. Bearing the events of the last few months in mind, this resolution expresses not only the support for Finland and for Sweden's monumental decision to apply for NATO membership. Furthermore, this resolution echoes that the leadership role that this Congress and this administration have taken in uniting the transatlantic alliance in the world in support of Ukraine. This did not happen overnight. President Biden last year began working closely with our NATO allies, sharing intelligence, working together to build on that alliance, including, more recently, we in Congress providing over $50 billion in support for Ukraine's warfighting effort and the immense humanitarian crisis that has resulted. These funds have been crucial in ensuring that Ukraine can continue their fight, and it has provided leadership for our other European allies to do the same. A fight for democracy, a fight for freedom, is a fight that Ukrainians must win. This is the test of our time. And President Zelensky has stood up, reminding all of us that the price of freedom is not free. And those brave Ukrainian people, how much they have done to show the entire world that they stand for their sovereignty. However, this resolution would not have been possible without the bipartisan support of many of my colleagues who have long supported the NATO allies, like Congressman Turner and so many others. This includes the lead on this resolution. Chairman Keating, as well as the lead original co-sponsors on this resolution, House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee, and the European Ranking Member Brian Fitzpatrick, as well as Representatives Eric Solwall and Representative Ann Wagner, as well as Representatives Connolly and Turner, again, of NATO, and the Parliamentary Assembly. In addition, I'd like to thank all of the chairs of the House Finland and Sweden caucuses for signing on as original co-sponsors of this legislation. And finally, I'd also like to thank specifically Chairman Minks and Ranking Member McCall of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who have been united in these efforts over the recent months. I also want to express my gratitude to Leader Hoyer and Chairman Meeks for allowing this resolution to move so swiftly into the floor expeditiously. Through this resolution, the House will loudly and clearly welcome Finland and Sweden into the NATO alliance, a clear sign of transatlantic unity in response to Vladimir Putin's brutal ambition. I was there in February in Brussels 2 days before the invasion, and I've never seen NATO as united, perhaps since the Cold War. The fact is that we have a strong history, and we have an opportunity to bolster the strength of this military alliance, as well as the democratic resolve of their governments. So in a spirit of unity and recognition of Finland and Sweden as long-term friends of the United States, I strongly urge my colleagues to support this resolution, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from California, Mr. Costa.